So here we have it, map number 2 of this best of 9. $200 on the line, and Frost is gonna be the host of this second map. Spawning in the top left hand position, representing NeuroSoft, we have Welmu. And his opponent in the top right, representing my insanity, it is the ZerG player, Sacsri. Do let me know, people who are watching live, whether the sound is a bit more balanced now. Apologies if it was slightly loud in game number 1, but it should be all fixed now. I've adjusted it quite steeply, so do just let me know how that's going. Frost being map number 2, this is still early days in terms of this best of 9. Losing map 1 in a best of 3 is a pretty rough spot. In a best of 5, a bit less. Best of 7 doesn't really matter. In a best of 9, it's basically a warm-up game. I'm not saying it's not a nice thing to have that game under your belt, but in the grand scheme of things, you've got to win 4 more if you're going to take this series. And a lot can go wrong, or very, very right, in those in the next 4 games if you want to try and make it a 5-0. Sacsri opening a little different to last game, going for that spawning pool first. Clearly being a bit more cautious, having seen the fact that there is a probe, just nestling into his mineral line, trying to just trick those silly drones and their AI away from mining. But this is all still looking to be a fairly normal opening from both of these two. Welmu going to be going Nexus first. We can see that by the amount of minerals that are still banked up there. And while there is always the option for that forge, don't have to worry too much. Anyway, still waiting to see if anything crazy comes out. I'd say the big thing from game 1 that was just so insane was probably just how aggressive we saw Sacsri. It wasn't a passive play from him in the slightest. Throughout that game, he was the one across the map. He was the one attacking. And while some of that may have been because of the greedy play from Welmu in the Nexus first into the fast third Nexus, but some of it is also Sacsri's gameplay. Being that aggressive ZerG player puts a lot of pressure on a Protoss, who quite often Protoss players in PvZ are much more accustomed to being the aggressor themselves. They're used to be moving out across the map on big 2-base plays, going for a very aggressive style. But roles reversed, Welmu did a great job of defending against countless bits of pressure. But this game, it could all get flipped on its head, and I'd expect to see quite a different composition from Welmu. Last game he was completely reliant on gateway units for the entire game. It was only at the very late stages that he went for the Archons added in there too, but no Colossus, no Stargate, nothing other than basically Blinkstalkers, Sentries and Zealots. And the reason he was trying to go for that was all through the Forge. That was his kind of fundamental gas investment, was getting those upgrades down. Unfortunately, they were repeatedly blocked, and that's really where Sacsri was able to catch back up in those upgrades and eventually take the lead in them, taking the one advantage that Welmu actually had and took it for his own. Still keeping an eye on anything crazy coming through from these two. For the moment, there's not too much in terms of insanity on its way, but that's nothing to worry about. Very cautious stuff coming through here still. Stargate just now getting started, so this is the first bit of tech we're seeing from Welmu so far this series actually with that Stargate, but more importantly, we are just going to see whether or not Sacsri is able to be in the defender's position as opposed to the aggressor we saw in that first map. I'm loving the fact that yet again the Overlords are being very active from an early stage. Really, this is just Sacsri wanting to scout everything, but ooh, he pulls back. Okay, I'm glad he's going back in again. Didn't see that pylon, didn't see the tech. Will now get the scout, and thanks to Stargates, of course, revealing what's being constructed, Sacsri will now know that he's going to be up against an Oracle opening. Immediately, Spore Crawler gets started. The Queen's going to go and hug up on it, and therefore, this shouldn't do too much damage. But remember, Oracles, while they're alive, can be a big damage dealer late game, and that means that you've got to be quite cautious. More spores are coming down, one at each base, very standard response, plus the lair also on its way. By seeing this Stargate, a lot of Zergs will respond with a very fast Hydra Den and going into Ling Hydra. And the reason that is a really good, viable option is because if there's a Stargate, there's not going to be High Templar or Colossi for quite a while. It just can't be done. So, Ling Hydra, without that splash damage, can deal a lot. Oracle, poking back in, will get away, and that's the important thing. May have only got 2 drone kills, but it's still alive. That's 2 plus maybe more. If it had fallen, it wouldn't have been worthwhile, but still, Welmu applying some pressure. He has forced out those spores, remember? He has somewhat forced Sacsri down a specific path in the form of those Hydras that are now obviously getting started. But it also means that by forcing Sacsri to stay defensive, he's able to secure up this greedy third Nexus yet again. And this third Nexus is where things are going to be playing through pretty cool. It has been scouted by the Zerg player, so Sacsri knows about this. He's also got 19 Lings on the field. 19 Zerglings shouldn't be able to deal with this. There is, of course, the photon cannon nicely protected in there. Making a couple of probes though, and by a couple I mean quite a few. Only managing to... actually didn't pick off a single one there. What? That was crazy. I'm sure I saw one die. Anyway, not too much damage has been done. Still the Lings looking for anywhere they can get some more damage, because this is quite a big investment in Zerglings. I believe it was 20 initially. Let me double check that. Yeah, it would have been 20 odd. And so due to that, that's quite a big lava investment, and also a relatively large amount of minerals pumped into it. So wait and see if they can achieve anything. If they catch something like a sentry out position, that'd be fantastic, and it seems precisely what Sacsri's going to be gunning for. Meanwhile, Welmu is adding on more gates. He's got +2 coming down, so this is already different from him. Game number 1, he was going for the 1-1. This game, it's the 2-0. Plus the blink yet again, though. So a similar composition for the mid-game from Welmu. But Sacsri really mixing it up. Rather than the Ling Roach composition, it's Ling Hydra. This will deal so much better with a kind of Blink Stalker Force or Gateway heavy composition than Roach Ling will. And that's because the damage output of the Hydralisks. They just deal so much more damage, so much quicker. They've got a greater range, so force fields aren't as effective. It's just going to be a lot easier for Sacsri to deal a lot of damage here. So, Ling's still poking through, trying to find any damage done. Going to see what these sentries and stalkers are going to be able to do. But this is all normal stuff. Both players just kind of sitting around. Sacsri's just gearing up for a massive push, and that is quite evident just from how many units he's pumping out at the moment. But waiting to see if Welmu has any knowledge of this. I don't believe he does at the moment. He knows about the Hydra Den, so probably suspects something coming through, and he's about to guarantee his knowledge of it. In comes that Phoenix. Sees all of it. Knows that there's quite a lot of units being produced here. What's Welmu going to do to try and stop this? Well, he already triggered the Photon Overcharge. He needs to deal with these Lings, but more importantly, doesn't want to move his main army out of position. Because if he did, he'd be running into some potential problems of units streaming in from the top towards Snatcher and getting caught out of position. So, at the moment, nothing crazy going on. Still waiting, still just checking to see if anything else could be happening, but with just a +1 missile attack coming through, Sacsri doesn't seem to be wanting to move out as of yet. But he's going to have to get defensive, because Welmu, he's prepared for blood. Sacsri's got a much greater army supply though, about 30 army supply up, with a very nice composition to deal with this. Welmu making a massive wall of force fields. This is literally the great wall of frost in terms of force fields there, because Welmu basically segmented off that entire very wide avenue to attack. Being forced back now though, Sacsri got a good concave if he does move in here. It's going to get pretty tense. Welmu still good with the force fields, getting some very cost-effective trades at the moment. and needs to keep that up, because Sacsri, his army is great now, but as this game gets later on, it gets less effective. 2-0 compared to 1-0 upgrades, currently in favour of Welmu, who is about to get attacked from the flank. Force fields need to be hitting the money, and they need to be hitting them well. Good work here at the moment. Hydras at the top still dishing out quite a bit of damage, plus to the south. This third base is getting ransacked. Just a couple of Hydras killing so many probes here, and Welmu's own force field is actually preventing him from speedily getting to defend that. A blink forward will provide the safety needed. Will clean up these Hydras, but already 22 workers have been killed. That is a good number of worker kills for this stage of the game. 15-minute mark just hit. Welmu though, he's not in a massively bad economic spot. Sacsri is only at 63 drones. And remember, Welmu had this third up very quickly in this game. He's been playing a greedy style so far this series. And at that stage, the damage probably wasn't enough to do it. The Hydras though, very high in number now. They've got both their upgrades and the +1 attack. Welmu going for this fight. The force field's not keeping the sentries safe though. The sentries at the front taking a lot of damage there. Still the Hydras trying to engage through a massive line of engagements coming through, but Welmu, he is engaging well. He's still trading slightly more cost effectively than Sacsri, and is going for the counter attack. More Hydras on their way through though. And with the +2 missile attack upgrade on its way, the upgrades are about to be matched out between these two. Still keeping a close eye on everything that they do, but no attempt from Sacsri to actually up his drone count much. But from Welmu, we've got the Templar Archives. This is a fantastic addition because Ling Hydra, as I mentioned right at the start, actually trades relatively well up against Gateway units and Blink Stalkers. What Ling Hydra fails with miserably is any kind of splash, be that Colossus or Storms. It's a squishy composition, but it can deal a lot of damage. So gotta be keeping a close peek on when the High Templar come out, if it's going to be some Archons, whether it's going to be some Storms. Going to be Archons initially, should be 2 coming through there. Unfortunately for Welmu, his 4th base has also been discovered. A cancel, guaranteed, no way he's going to be able to save this, so just quickly cancels it. Going to lose 100 minerals there, 100 for each of these pylons, which is a bit of a nuisance, but at least it didn't finish. Hydra's getting pulled down to that 4th base, the creep spread as well from Sacsri alerting him to Welmu pushing across towards that watchtower. Welmu though, he's adding in Storm now. Hasn't actually morphed the Archons yet, instead just keeping these as High Templar, banking up the energy, but Storm still a fair way off, only about half done for now. Welmu preparing to come in from the north, a handful of things just going to be sneaking through. They're gunning for those High Templar, forcing an Archon walk instantly. Hydra's getting in a very good position to the right, able to pick off a couple of units. Welmu still playing very, very defensive. Meanwhile, Sacsri, he's going for the Swarm Hosts, adding in Enduring Locusts, adding in the Swarm Hosts. This is going to just slowly siege up this position. And Welmu, while he's done some great job with force fielding off against these Hydras and Lings, picking them apart in bite-sized chunks, wave upon wave of Locusts become a lot more scary. The force field energy, that'll run out pretty quick. The Storm energy, that's going to run out pretty quick too. And without Colossus, you can't really deal with a good number of Swarm Hosts. It just isn't possible to do. So, still keeping an eye on everything that's coming on here. Meanwhile, a couple of Stalkers and Hydras duking it out down to the south. But with some Zealots coming in, they're going to sacrifice themselves to just buffer a bit of damage for the Stalkers to dish it through. Upgrades now in Sacsri's favour. Currently sitting at 2-1 up against 2-0. Still got to keep an eye on everything, but the Locust being revealed, pushing forward. Enduring Locust isn't yet done, that's why they died pretty quick. Spines also moving in here, just adding an extra layer of defense to these Swarm Hosts. And things are looking pretty tough. Welmu knows he needs to get some Colossus out. Adding in the robotics facility, making sure that he's got something in order to consistently splash against the waves of Locusts. The Hydra's coming in as well, seeing the army a little bit out of position. Welmu chasing a group of Hydralisks is completely exposing his 3rd Nexus here. Quite concerning. The Spire also coming through, from Sacsri. This is ready to get out some Corruptors if he needs them up against the Colossus. Still, nice damage. Also coming through. But Welmu, while he has managed to fend off the Hydras for now, he's lost 40 probes this game so far. His 4th base really is a lifeline that has to stay alive. It is essential that this stays up because Sacsri is already sitting on 4 bases. He's got a very cost-effective army in the form of the Swarm Hosts. And he's ransacked the 3rd pretty nicely. Can't end down yet. And, ooh, a great Aspire. Are we actually going to be seeing some Brood Lords here? That'd be awesome if we did. Hydras now pushing into the South Watchtower, forcing back the Stalkers of Welmu. Meanwhile, the Locusts just making progress up towards this 4th base. Going to be trying to whittle down this army, taking them out bit by bit, piece by piece. And remember, every unit that dies to these Locusts, every storm that's forced is energy and resources not available should Sacsri decide to just move straight in and go for the jugular. Nice little Zealot counterattack coming through. There's not much in the way of defense here. And the Natural Nexus is gonna take a fair bit of a beating. Few Locusts should be able to clean this up, but all the while, the 3rd Nexus is taking a lot of fire. That's a lot of Zealots that Welmu's committed up to here. And while he has taken out a Queen in the main and seen the Great Aspire, his 3rd Nexus is going to fall. The Hydralisk has just got such a large surface area on it. The Stalker's not in the greatest position in order to engage. He needs to try and pick off units as they retreat. Time Warp being used quite nicely there. A couple of Hydras also going to go down, but the Zealots in the main for Welmu are still dealing more damage. A couple of Roaches popping out now to try and stop this. The Hydra tank getting focused out. Not taking that much damage from only 1 Zealot. Meanwhile, the Locusts making good progress up against this 4th. If the 4th base dies, Welmu is going to be in very dire spots. 10 Infestors also on their way through. Those Fungal Growths are going to be essential in order to try and lock down the Blink Stalkers to prevent their mobility from being utilized. And that's something that Welmu has utilized very well throughout this series. Moving in now, more Locusts just starting to chip away, pick away, deal any damage that they can. More Storms being forced just to hold this off because the Colossus count not high enough in order to deal with this many Swarm Hosts with 16 of them on the field. 5th base also coming through now for our Zerg. The Spine Crawler and Spore Crawler push edging forward, just slowly leapfrogging their way through. The Locusts getting a couple more kills, pick off Archon there. And remember, every time you get a nice unit kill with just Locusts, you're trading basically nothing for resources. That is the most effective trade you can ever hope for. Retake of the 3rd, being forced to cancel as these Hydras move in, and Welmu really on the back foot. He is in the most defensive position possible. Has to just stay up here. And it's quite a hard position for the Locusts to break if the Storms and obviously Colossus keep shelling through. But the Locusts, as we can see, aren't that easy to kind of stop. It needs quite a few Storms. The Colossus count is slowly climbing. The 6th one about to pop out into the field now. Upgrades are good for the Colossus as well, with +3 there. So we've got to keep this pretty steady. In come the Locusts. They're getting a nice couple of kills up at this 4th, and unfortunately for Welmu, he can't move up to deal with it, so he goes straight for the main army. Fungal Growths are hitting the money, preventing the blink forward, keeping these spines poking away at a nice chunk. Good abduct, hits onto one of those Colossus, gets it taken down quick. Still though, the Colossus, they're pushing through. The Swarm Hosts are starting to die, but another wave of Locust comes on down. The Infestors pretty much out of energy, but just in the nick of time, in come those Corruptors. They seal the deal. GG from Welmu, and Sacsri is going to take game number 2 of this best of 3. Best of 9 rather.